welcome to Nighthawk Racing and the hashtag F1RT Championship. Firstly, I'm Sarah Hawkey. You can find myself and the rest of our drivers here on the Nighthawk Racing YouTube channel. You can also check out the entire back catalogue of seasons 1 to 3 of the F1 RST series, mini-series and off-championship events, and one-off race events, all of which are highly competitive and a lot of fun. Also, please check out our Instagram and TikTok for other content and races there. Link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen for more information. But now, it's time to focus on the event at hand. Tonight is the night you join me for the final round, round 10 of season 4 of the F1 RST Nighthawk Racing Championship here at Bathurst tonight, and for one final time this season we'll be covering the red lobby. Before we get into tonight's race, I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about the event itself and the championship as a whole. So as you can see on screen at the moment is our calendar. We have a 10 race championship calendar going to several different tracks that GT7 has to offer. The racing itself will be divided into two lobbies, the red and the blue lobby. There are two racing events with a qualifying session, and the order of the events is the qualifying session comes up first. This sets a grid for the feature race. Next up is the sprint race, which is based on reverse average points scored, and then we go straight into the feature race, and like I said earlier, the qualifying session sets the grid for the feature race. So, up first on the racing events of the night is the sprint race. The sprint race will be 9 laps. The grid is formed via how the drivers line up in the reverse average points scored across the season for a rolling start. And the feature race will be 32 laps. All drivers must use 2 different compounds of tyres in this race, whilst also starting on the grid on the compound that they set their fastest lap in qualifying earlier. And as a reminder, during the lobby tonight, in the blue lobby, drivers have full driver aids such as traction control, ASM and ABS. And in the red lobby, they only have ABS enabled on the driver aids, that hardcore driving experience to really challenge our drivers. Right, so while the drivers are qualifying, let's talk a little bit about the track itself and what to expect from the race tonight. So, for the final round we picked Bathurst. Some people may know it as Mount Panorama. It's obviously based in Australia. The circuit length is 6.2 kilometres or 3.861 miles. It's got 22 turns in total, and as you may know, it is a real life track. It is located near the township of Bathurst in New South Wales in Australia. It appears in GT6, GT Sport and Gran Turismo 7, so it's a track that we've all been used to racing in lobbies or daily races. But the circuit itself in real life is notable for 2 major races, the Bathurst 12 Hours and the ATC Australian Supercar Bathurst 1000. So definitely some notable major racing events take place here, which I'm sure we've had the privilege to see on the telly or some people in real life. Lucky them. I'd love to go over to Australia and watch that. But talking about obviously how difficult this track is, obviously it's very kind of uphill and downhill sections. The undulations doesn't bode well for the cars sometimes. You can unsettle the cars if you go just that little bit too fast into some of the sectors, and it's a very unforgiving track. There's not a lot of room to make errors with the walls, the sand, and especially those barriers. But let's go check back in with everyone. Let's see where they qualified, and hopefully they're gearing up for the final race of the series.
So here we are for the finale, Red Lobby, Season 4, Round 10, Bathurst. So, let's get on with this. Nigel will be starting, taking pole position in that rolling start sprint lobby. Nigel Mansdale, love the name, in that Ferrari 458, paying tribute to late 80s Nigel Mansell himself. And in P2, we have one half of our Nighthawk Racing co-creators in that gorgeous blue and red BMW M6. Sarah will be looking for a good result here. First race in the red lobby this season, and we'll be hoping to make a very good impression. In P3, we have Koulios in that NSX. He is one of those drivers who's going to be a bit of an unknown around here. He's had a few troubles with that NSX this season, but when he hooks it up, he's very quick, so good luck to him out there. In P4, we have Coach ahead of Fasuto Racing. Another one who has been devastatingly quick through a lot of the season, just not had the luck to go with it sometimes, particularly on opening laps. Let's hope he can have a good start here at the finale race. And in P5 we have Sidley, who had a cracking race at High Speed Ring last week in the survival double header between High Speed Ring and Bathurst. So good luck to Sidley out there in that Lexus. Then in P6 we have Sophie, one of our Red Lobby regulars in that Ferrari 458. Is going to be very quick, particularly off the line when it comes to the feature race, but in the sprint it's going to be maybe a different story. We have to see what she can get up to, but I know she really enjoys racing around here, and good luck to her. And then we have our returning Season 3 champion, Katie Nakai, in that silver gorgeous GTR. And he's going to be wanting nothing less than at least a fastest lap and a win. Maybe you'll settle for podium. We'll have to wait and see, Sarah. But can you take us down from 8th downwards, please?
Of course I can. So in P8 we have Pedro with a special livery to commemorate the final round of the season. Starting in P8 in that BMW M6, but starting just behind we have Weiss Fatherboy in that Porsche 911, looking for a good end to the season. He's joined us for quite a few rounds now. We know how quick he is, so let's see what he can do. But joining him, the fellow other Porsche 911 driver in Mercedes as well, in that Team Year 1 livery 911, starting just behind his 911 pal. So let's see how the two 911s can get on. And in P11 we then have Midnight ISO in that McLaren 650S, looking to maybe clinch P2 in the championship. Tonight is where it's going to happen. If you can do it, we shall see. But in P12 we have our current championship leader in the Dark Lord GT in that Toyota Supra, looking for maybe potentially Grand Slam here. We shall see. It's going to be tough, but I think Dark Lord will definitely want to end this season with a bang, so I wouldn't write anything off of the Dark Lord completing it. But in P13 we have Kirk in the Dodge Viper, joining us for the last round of the season and for a bit of fun. But in P14 we have Charlie in that Ford GT. Had a season full of ups and downs, but I'm sure tonight he'll be trying to finish it on a high. But quite a full grid, and what can I say? It's my first Red Lobby start, so a bit nervous, a bit excited, and can't wait to hit the ground running with all you guys.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one out there, Sarah. Like you say, it's your first one in Red Lobby, but we're all friends here in Red Lobby. That's one way of putting it anyway. It's a nice way of putting it. But I gotta say, the race is shaping up nicely as well. You've got a lot of drivers there, all capable of taking really good haul of points. But just looking around the lobby, there's a lot of drivers here that you're going to be have to keep an eye out for. Those 911 drivers, and particularly I'd say obviously Dark Lord and Charlie, both very much on form. Dark Lord clinching the championship last week out at High Speed Ring, but like you said, he's going to be wanting for maybe even a potential Grand Slam. And then that doesn't even include Katie the Kai, our Season 3 champion, or Sophie, who is a bit of a Bathurst specialist. So lots of possibilities out there for a very good race, I feel.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think we've got such a great grid tonight, especially for our final round of the season, so could get quite spicy, and I think it's going to be a very exciting grid, so I think we should get into it and see what we're dealing with.
Exactly that, and I will just give a last minute shout out to Pedro, who has been very under the radar for some of the races this season. Keep an eye on him in this front race. As long as he can have a clean one, he'll have a good one. But with that in mind, time for the race here. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And here we are for the final event for the Red Lobby in Season 4, Round 10. Nigel Mansell leads the back away, followed by Sarah Hawkey, Koulios, Coach, and Sitterly in the top 5 into Turn 1. And this is the start of the sprint. It should be nice and easy into Turn 1, only a short run into that left-hander. But down this first straight is where it's all going to get a bit spicy up towards Turn 2. As Koulios is already looking like he fancies a move for P2 on our very own Sarah Hawkey on the right-hand side, taking it inside, no, ducking back in for a little bit more slipstream. Thinking about it into the braking zone. No, not today. Top 3 say the same. We have had an incident. Sitterly off at Turn 2, and that he goes down from 5th place to the back of the grid there. Now we see Kai, our Season 3 champion, making a move on Pedro into Turns 3 and 4. Have you seen anything of interest yet, Sarah?
Apart from what you said, I didn't quite catch what happened to Sitterly, unfortunately. It looked like he maybe got caught out by with the pack going into that Turn 2 section. But into Turn 2, we had the Dark Lord overtaking yourself, Midnight. But a little bit further up, we've got, like you said, Katie Kai just making that move on Pedro. Fodder looking at Pedro's rear of the BMW, obviously sporting a slightly new livery as Pedro, but he's quite close to the drivers in front, and it looks like the top 8 are separated by not a lot, Midnight.
Yeah, quite right. It looks like Nigel had a bit of a moment coming into that corkscrew area. Coach gets a little touch on Koulios, pushes him sideways, forcing Koulios down back the orders. Coach actually goes up a place. And yeah, it looks like a few movers there in that little incident, but it has really benefited Kai and Pedro the most there, I feel.
I agree with you there. Obviously, it looked like Coach maybe potentially tried to go for the move out of the corner, taking the inside line, and maybe caught Koulios slightly off guard. As it looks like Sophie and Nigel, the two Ferraris, have got caught out in a little bit of an incident going into that chicane there, and Nigel dropping from P1 to P6, Midnight.
Yeah, and it's Sophie dropping from P3, making a move on yourself, Sarah, all the way to P13, and it's one of Sophie's favourite tracks. She's not going to be happy about that one, but going down the pit straight, we have 2 pairs of drivers side by side into that left hander, and we do have Mercedes joining the battle as well. So 6 or 7 cars fighting over 2 spots after the first lap has already ended. So a lot of drivers trying to make their way through. Coach up to P2, yourself, Sarah in P1, followed by a gaggle of cars. Kai, Pedro, Nigel, Fodder, Koulios, Mercedes, and well, everyone else.
It looks like the pack is very close to each other, and the Dark Lord has made some moves up as well, catching Mercedes and Koulios. So that, the gaggle of cars bringing themselves ever closer has made it a little bit easier on Dark Lord to get through the pack. But yeah, let's just say Coach is quite close to my car at the moment. I was definitely looking in my rear view mirrors at this point. But it looks like Katie Kai had a little tap with the wall there, but that didn't lose him a lot of time. But it looks like Pedro may be being a... Oh, Nigel's gone off onto the grass. Pedro may potentially be looking for a move, and a little bit of door banging between Pedro and Nigel there. But Pedro gets in front, has a little bit of contact with the wall, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and catch Katie Kai and Coach as soon as he can. But looking slightly further behind, the Dark Lord has picked up a half-second penalty, and Fodder has got a little bit closer to Pedro.
Yeah, and seems like it's relatively consistent out the front, but it looked like there was a little bit of a concertina effect going on with Nigel going off in that middle sector. Just looks like it forced a load of drivers together, and you do end up with secondary little impacts, but it looks like everyone kept on the track for the most part. Sarah is currently leading. I bet you're loving that one, but followed by our very own coach, head of Fusutu Racing, and our Season 3 champion of Katie the Kai, who looks like he wants P2, if not P1, and a good spot there. Sophie making a move on Charlie.
Just before the chicane, or just halfway through the chicane, Sophie made that move on Charlie. Looked like Charlie may have saw it coming, so decided to move out the way and brake just that a little bit earlier, and I'm sure obviously he'll be thankful to get around the corner. Sophie potentially looking for a move on the inside of Koulios here. Koulios gets to the apex just a little bit before her, so caps off the apex before Sophie can get to it and gets a better run out of turn 1. But I think obviously Nigel down to P10, obviously he's looking to try and make up a few more positions after that incident in the middle sector. And Kirk, obviously starting near the back of the grid, has managed to get up to P8 currently midnight.
Yeah, Kurt doing very well considering that back of the grid start alongside Charlie, I believe. And I was just noticing Fodder up in P5 on those soft tyres in that Porsche. He's going to be pushing his luck a little bit, even in just 9 laps around here. But if anyone can do it, we have faith in our Fodder. But also, Pedro running a livery. It's one off for this fight finale event today. Looking good there. Looking towards P3, as we do have the top 5 all within about half a second.
Yeah, I was under pressure here. I was definitely feeling the pressure, having especially these 4 behind me. They are incredibly fast, so I was doing all I can to try and stay in the lead for as long as I could. Obviously, my Red Lobby debut, and I think I was doing alright so far. But like I say, it's gonna be hard to keep these guys behind me. But talking about behind me, we have, like you say, that kind of gaggle of cars from Coach all the way down to Fodder, and it looks like Dark Lord is getting closer and closer to this group. So I'm sure he'll be loving that and try and maybe get a few moves done in the next couple of laps or so. But it looks like the top 3 are getting closer and closer here midnight.
Yeah, quite right, and it's well, it's an almighty
Fodder
battle.
Go for a move up the inside of Pedro into that chicane. Sorry about to cut you off there. It looks like Fodder going, potentially trying to go around the outside of KD the Kai into the final corner, and Dark Lord going on the inside of Pedro. So unfortunately, Pedro losing a few positions within that second half of the lap.
Yeah, you can be wrong-footed like that, and you can drop not 1 but 2 to 3 positions. Pedro wrong-footed by Fodder's ambitious little dive, but it looks like he did it nice and safely from what we saw. So good moving from Fodder there, catching Pedro unaware, and then of Dark Lord, who is our confirmed Season 4 champion after the last race at High Speed Ring. Obviously doing the same thing to Pedro as well. But what can I say, Fodder making a use of these soft tyres whilst they are in the prime location. So, well, good move from Fodder.
What I can remember, Fodder potentially looking for a move on the inside of my BMW there, but I tried to keep him at bay. But KD the Kai obviously on looking at this at the moment as well. Obviously he's got, like you say, our Season 4 champion and the Dark Lord just behind. We know these two like to battle out on track, and it's been a while since we've seen KD the Kai, so it's good to see him back on the grid as well. Oh, major braking, so it looked like KD the Kai just rear-ended Fodder into that downhill section that we're going into now. So unfortunately, KD the Kai and Fodder having a little bit of contact, and that has dropped Fodder down to the bottom of the grid, unfortunately.
Bad bit of timing there from KD the Kai and Fodder, but Fodder the one who will be ruining that one. Still, the race will continue. That has been good news for Pedro and Mercedes, who is quietly keeping moving forwards. Obviously in the fight for P2, Mercedes, so every point he can score is going to be exactly what he needs to do. Every point, every position is what he's fighting for. But they have to be careful, because Kirk in that Dodge Viper has, I think, a little bit of a touch there on Mercedes, has pushed Mercedes wide.
Mercedes has accidentally pushed you wide, Midnight.
Yep.
I just caught you bouncing across the sand there, and that was obviously, unfortunately, dropped you P10 after what looked like a couple of laps that you were getting up the grid. But yeah, unfortunate for you. It looks like Kudos may be going for a move on Mercedes here into turn 1 of lap 5. Gets it done. Sophie potentially looking for a move as well, as Mercedes looks a little bit sideways coming out of that corner. But yeah, like you say, unfortunately, that has dropped Mercedes to P8. And obviously off of the back of Kirk and Pedro. But a little bit further ahead, we've got the Dark Lord just overtaking me on the inside line. I know that's not my fight, so I wasn't trying to do anything silly there. But yeah, everyone else looks like we've still got, obviously with 5 laps in, we've still got 4 laps left, and I think it's going to be battles right until the end, Midnight.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that one, and that seems very logical, Sarah. At the end of the day, you see a Dark Lord coming up behind you, yeah, jump out of the way. But yeah, going back a couple of corners.
You know what it was?
Go for it.
I think I could hear Imperial March being played, and I thought, oh, I don't want to get in his way.
Yeah, good choice. Get out of the way of the Dart Lord himself. But Coach, who is up to P1 for a last lap or so, now has the Dark Lord with him. So the battle of the Supras up for P1, but Dark Lord was immensely quick in qualifying. He was just in the groove around it, and you can just see how quickly he's got at the back of Coach already. So I have to wait and see if Coach is going to fight, or he's just going to go, do you know what, this isn't my fight either.
Yeah, and just drawing your attention a little bit further back, we have had a yellow flag incident between Sophie and Nigel. Sophie having a little bit of a troublesome time in that twisty section, and unfortunately just came together with Nigel as well, which has brought Fodder back in with the chance to pick up a few positions here, but obviously probably not what Nigel or Sophie wanted there. Obviously kind of causing a Constantina effect, but Fodder is weaving his way through the two Ferraris and has got himself into 12th. As it looks like Nigel may have had a netcode error and pushed Sophie wide, and Sophie goes spinning into that final chicane and off into the gravel. Not probably what she wants.
No, she's going to be seething after that one. She loves this track, but that is what happens in racing. Sometimes you don't always get it go your way. So it's wonderful to have her on here, but she's not going to be enjoying this race so far. But it's the way it goes. But at the front, we do have Coach and Dartlord swapping positions quite regularly, but it does look like Dartlord might be getting the upper hand, covering the inside into turn 2 and up through the twisty bit. Now this is where he's going to have to create a little bit of a gap to Coach and then try and get Coach out the way of his slipstream. But in P3 yourself, Sarah, holding back Katie the Kai, Pedro and Kirk and Mercedes. So that is a very heady group there, but you're loving your time in the red lobby as Kai looks like he is being very opportunistic. That is not a place you normally pass.
No, I think I was afraid from my life there a little bit from what I remember, but I didn't take my foot off. I wanted to try and bring Katie the Kai a little bit of a fight. I don't get to fight him very often, but obviously there's a lot of respect there, and it just shows you can race side by side through there, even if you probably don't want to. But you can just see the speed that Katie the Kai and Pedro have got, and probably a little bit of a cork in the bottle at this point, but I'm not complaining. But yeah, looking a little bit further behind, it looks like Charlie trying to stay out of any dramas today. He's in P9, probably not one of his favourite tracks in this 4GT, but he's doing quite a good job. And he looks like he's nearly caught up to Koulios just in front, and Koulios obviously unlocking this battle for that P3 position. And it looks like Kirk had a little bit of a tangle together with Mercedes. Mercedes tapping Kirk round, but Mercedes waiting for Kirk at the middle of the chicane.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Kirk and Mercedes. Mercedes doing the right thing though and letting the Dodge Viper driver back through. So good. Little bit of sportsmanship there, a bit of gentlemanly driving after a bit of a whoops moment. But out front, Dartlord looks like he's got a handle on this race now. Stretching his legs out front. Coach, a very solid P2. Sarah P3 still with Katie the Guy behind her. Well done on that one, sir. That's a very tall ask to keep that man behind you. But it looks like he is going for the move up into turn 2. Will he make it stick? Onto the brakes late as you can. Side by side. Yeah, that GTR just has a little bit more traction out of the corner. I did see a very wide Koulios in the back there, who looks like his soft tyres are starting to give out. So having some fun with those. But good move from Kai there. And now another one, the Nighthawk admin, Pedro, has joined the fight as well in the other M6.
Obviously, I've raced quite a lot of time side by side with Pedro. I kind of have a, I kind of get the gist of where he's probably wanting to overtake me as quick as he can to try and catch up to Katie the Kai again. But I'm trying to stay in front of him for just a little bit longer. But obviously, again, I don't want to be a cork in the bottle. So you probably see the speed of Pedro shoot past me in a minute. But just further behind, Charlie has caught us both up me and Pedro, and Koulias as well. Like I say, going a little bit wide, but he's hanging on in there with Charlie, probably enjoying the slipstream that he's getting off of that Ford GT just in front. And it looks like Sicily and yourself, Midnight, are engaging in a little bit of a battle here. Sicily in that Lexus, tucking in behind your McLaren, looking to go for the outside line here maybe, but there's just a car's width there, so he might be able to hang it round the inside of Midnight here. Obviously trying to secure that inside line, but Midnight braking a little bit later has managed to seal the apex and stay in front. But obviously Kirk and Mercedes getting back on the road and continuing their battle here, and everyone else kind of just trying to get round after probably what probably not what they wanted to start the sprint race with, but obviously hopefully their fortunes in the future turn around. But Pedro has got in front of me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it was down into the final chicane at the back straight, and Charlie looked like he thought he was having a move at Koulias as well, but Koulias and Charlie still going at it as well. But you have to say, I have to give Sicily a lot of props. You know, you can go wheel to wheel with a gent and still both of you come out of the corner, and Sicily proving it there again time and time this season. But Koulias, you always know when you get you and Koulias together, there's going to be fireworks, and there was a little bit of something there again, as always between you pair. But it looks like...
I think I just saw Koulias behind me and was a little bit startled, shall we say. So I don't think that was any Koulias' fault. That was just a temporary lack of skill there from me. But yeah, going back to your fact about Sicily, I know from racing him in the Blue Lobby quite a bit this season, you can race side by side with him through some corners, and you can do a little bit of door bashing, but you know you're both going to end up round the corner. And it looks like he's just tucked up in behind you at the moment, not looking to go for an overtake just yet, but I think Kirk is closing up on yourself and Sicily here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that. It looks like we're going to have a multi-car battle towards the final lap as we're getting there now. And I have noticed out the front, we do have, obviously, Dark Lord and Coach, but KD Kai is definitely making inroads in towards Coach's lead on P2. Have to see if he can hold on. But Koulias and Pedro, two very fast gents, very close together on track as well. Looks like Koulias is feeling the track at the moment. He's moving up on the back of Pedro, so watch out for some interesting racing there. Charlie still sitting in P6. Good race from the very back row from him. And then yourself, Sarah, at P7, with myself in P8. Then Kirk, Mercedes, Sicily has dropped down to P11. And the recovering fodder, P12, Nigel Mansell, P13. And Sophie in P14 at the moment on the back of Nigel. So that could be a move for P13 shortly. But final lap, Sarah.
Yeah, and I did ask you for a little bit of a bump here, but you said no, but you gave me a bump on the side. But I gave you one back, made sure you knew the message was received. But yeah, unfortunately, obviously both teammates, I wasn't going to hold you up too much. But, oh, Kirk, unfortunately, gave you a little bit of a tap there. Yeah, probably caught you unexpected there, but that has dropped you back into P11. Kirk just getting in front of me because of that. But yeah, probably not what you wanted in that situation, Midnight.
No, it was not, and we had words. Myself and Kirk, as per normal. It's not the only time we've had a bit of an incident on track, but P2, this is where the sharp end of the grid and all the points are at the moment. You got Coach and Kai completely together. Kai was slightly worse tyre wear, might be a factor more in the feature, but we won't be in the last few corners. Looks like Coach is going to be trying hold on for dear life for P2 in this final half lap.
Like maybe that Supra just got a little bit more top end speed coming out of that very tight hairpin, and obviously it will be these last few corners if KD Kai can get back up on the rear of that Supra. But I mean, when you get caught up behind the Supra, we know how quick they are in a straight line, as you can see with obviously Dark Lord's pace at the moment. But yeah, obviously I think the Dark Lord has he is coming across the final corner now. A little bit of a sideways moment, going side by side, sealing his victory in the sprint race.
Yeah, very much the swan song for the series for him. And Koulias and Pedro in the front corner. Finish. Yeah, and Coach takes P2, Kai takes P3, Koulias and Pedro across the line. Koulias by a nose, literally. Charlie in P6, there, yourself in P7, followed by Mercedes. That's good for him for the fight for P2. Myself for P9. Kirk did let me back through. Goes down to P10, Sicily P11, recovering fodder P12. Nigel in P13 has got back past Sophie somewhere.
I think Sophie had a few. Well, she had a moment with Nigel earlier where he did get caught in. She did get caught in the sand, unfortunately. But both finishing, coming across the line now. It looked like potentially Nigel was trying to wait for Sophie to let Sophie back through, but yeah, obviously I'm sure the two Ferraris will have better fortune in the future race. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good race. All in all, I think obviously Bathurst a very, very difficult track to drive, but pretty much everyone managed to hit the ground running there.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of good racing from a lot of the drivers. There are a few little tangly moments which we often see in the sprints, and a few maybe stewarding inquiries we might be seeing after this race. But all in all, it's good to see some good racing action, particularly at the sharp end. Dark Lord, although already season champion, really sealing it from basically back of the grid in the sprint race with a sprint race victory. It's hard to do around here, Sarah. So well done to him, and I have to say congratulations to a lot of the drivers who did a very simple but effective race around here.
I've got to agree with you. It's such a difficult track to drive, so just to be able to get the car around is obviously the toughest job, and everyone pretty much did that. I think obviously the few standout drives, obviously Dark Lord coming back from obviously the back of the grid, or near on the back of the grid. I think it just shows you why he's our season 4 champion, managing to kind of not worm his way, but strategically work his way out through the pack, and he always keeps it as clean as he can. But I think a massive props to Coach as well, being able to hold off Katie the Kai. Again, we know how fast Katie the Kai is in that GTR, but I think everyone should be pretty happy.
I think that sounds fair to me. But with that in mind, I think we should go and have a look at what happened in qualifying and then the feature race.
Yeah, I agree. So here it is, the final qualifying session of Season 4, and what better way to seal the championship winning season of Dark Lord by, setting a pole position time, because not like he needs the points, but I think what better way to finish the season for Dark Lord, obviously setting a pole position time of a 2:02.908 and on the soft set of tyres. So our championship leader doing what he does best and going fast.
And you have to say, with fodder in P2 on a 2:03.622, also on soft tyres, the only man who could get anywhere remotely near that pole position time of the Dark Lord, cracking laps from the pair of them.
Yeah, and also on the soft set of tyres is Koulias, P3, setting a time of a 2:04.185.
And then swiftly followed up by one of our own admin of Pedro on a 2:04.704 on a medium tyre, so he's the head medium tyre in this pack, Sarah.
Yeah, and Charlie sets his time on the soft tyres, so going for a slightly different strategy to Pedro, but he set his time of a 2:04.967.
And then in P6 we have Sophie in that Ferrari 458 on a 2:05.287 on the medium tyres also.
Yeah, also on the medium tyres is Kirk, setting a time of a 2:05.755. So, I wouldn't underestimate Kirk. He's looking that he's going to be fast today.
Yeah, and he likes the Bathurst track, so keep an eye on him. But in P8, directly behind Kurt, head of Sutu Racing, we have Coach on a 2:05.969, also on the medium tyres.
Yes, and Sicily as well, also on the medium tyres, setting a time of a 2:06.080 in that Lexus. Could potentially be good round here.
And then in P10, directly behind him, the 911 of Mercedes X50 on a 206.419. Interestingly, on the hard tyres, there's a couple of events he's done that for the season. I think the last 3 events, Road Atlanta, and, well, at High Speed Ring he was on soft, so he definitely goes against the grain of convention when it comes to qualifying. Let's see how it works out for him.
Yeah, let's see how it works indeed. Obviously, Midnight also starting on the medium tyres, just behind Mercedes, setting a time of a 207.110, so he'll be definitely battling it out with Mercedes for that P2 spot in the championship. It's still all to play for.
And then we have our final position in the Red Lobby today. Sarah Hawkey on her Red Lobby debut on a 208.039 on the medium tyres. Very respectable, particularly around such drivers. And what can I say? Sets us up for a particularly interesting race where I think Dartlord, he is looking to crown off his victorious season. He's done so well in so many events. But there are drivers like Fodder and Koulios and Pedro who are not going to make it easy for him out there.
No, I think it's going to be a very difficult race. Obviously, going into the final round, some positions are still all to play for. Although the championship is sealed, signed and delivered by the Dark Lord, everyone else is pretty much free to fight for their position. So it's going to be a spicy one, and what better track to end off the season, Midnight?
I completely agree, and like you say, for positions wise, Sophie and Pedro out there are fighting over P4, and yeah, it's one that has gone right down to the end. Sophie wants to finish in P4. I believe she's finished P5 the last season or two, so she's wanting that P4. And then you have the battle for P2 as well, so only a few points in it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped up. It's the season finale, so what better way to round off season 4 by getting into the race and seeing all the action.
Let's do this. Let's crown off season 4 with a good race down under.
Right, so I'm waiting for the red lights to go off. The cars are revving and roaring to go for the final race of season 4, and it looks like Sophie in the Ferrari has got a lightning quick start, and she's already up on the back of Dark Lord here and into that P3 spot, and everyone going side by side coming out of turn 1. And I think if this is a sign to come for the race, it looks like it's already heating up into that first corner. Sophie and Fodder side by side, Koulios and Pedro side by side, and literally everyone else side by side, Midnight.
Yeah, everyone looking for a move up into turn 2, and so far, no, not so good. Oops. There's a McLaren backwards into turn 2. That's
oh no.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're in a fight for P2 in the championship. But you have to say, Sophie an electric start so far, and all the way up to P2 behind Dartlord, followed by Fodder, Koulios and Pedro. So nice and good close racing so far. Everyone looks like they've got all of the antics out of the system following the sprint race. Good close racing with very minimal contact.
Unfortunate for yourself into that turn 2 section, but yeah, apart from that, everyone else seems to be already engaging in a few battles. Sophie making a little bit of a mistake there. Fodder keen to capitalise on it. Oh, she clipped the wall. Fodder going past her into this downhill section. Don't see many overtakes happening there, but Sophie unfortunately clipping the wall a bit meant that Fodder got a better exit, and Koulios on the back of Sophie here now. And it looks like Mercedes as well is on the back of Citily, potentially looking for another promotion. Place position promotion. But apart from that, Cable Guy very close to the rear bumper of my BMW. Looks like he's going to go into that inside line here and potentially looking for an overtake on me.
Yeah, Kai looks like he's had a bit of a slow start to the first lap, but running P12, yeah, does get up to P12 past yourself, Sarah. And I have to say, Sophie also making a great move around the outside of, I think, Fodder, though, who's lost quite a few places. I think on a little trip across the grass, perhaps. But you have to say, Sophie...
Catch it.
No, unfortunately, Sophie Well, fortunately for her, she's on the medium tyres, so looking very, very strong at the moment. Koulias on the softs, Pedro on the mediums, and Kirk on the mediums as well, looking strong. You have to say, at the moment, any soft runner in the top 5 is looking very handy. Another
so Fodder is about to lose another space to Sitterly, and yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Fodder, unfortunately, like you say, just not in that last half a lap, just not been able to keep it. Oh, Sitterly looking very wobbly over the curbs there. Thought potentially he may be facing the wrong side, wrong way round after that, but managed to keep it out on the track, and Fodder gets another place, and the two Porsches now going side by side.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of action all the way around the place, and we have had Coach who's pitted on lap 1 after incidents and damage, so he is now at the back of the pack, but looks like Dark Lord is disappearing out front. He's very in sync at the moment. Koulias on the back of Sophie still. But it does look like all the other drivers are being nice and calm, nice and cautious through the downhill section, through the S's. But like you say, Fodder falling down the pack. He's now fallen behind Mercedes, the other 911 driver. But Fodder on the softs, Mercedes outstandingly on the hard tyres. So he's so far having a brilliant race in P7.
Thinking about longevity into the race as well, maybe potentially hampering obviously his qualifying position just a little bit, but sometimes you just want to stay out for as long as you can, especially obviously like you say, Fodder's on the softs. We know who's going to have to unfortunately pit first, but Fodder braking a lot later there, going for the inside line, and manages to get past Mercedes here, obviously getting a slightly better traction on those soft tyres. But I think Mercedes, will be a waiting game, and I'm sure he'll make up those positions again when everyone else has to come into the pits. But looking around, it looks like Charlie is potentially... I saw the head of that Ford GT pop out a little bit on Kirk, but Kirk manages to stay in front, and Pedro very close to this top 3 battle here. Koulias just behind Sophie. Sophie trying to keep both of them behind, but Koulias out to that inside line into turn 2. Oh, Koulias braking a lot later than expected there, but the both are going side by side into this turn 3, and I'm sure Pedro will look to capitalise on any mistakes made.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's done well there in P2 and up to P3. So Koulias taking P2. We do see Charlie, who's got ahead of Kirk, using those soft tyres to his advantage. The soft tyre runners are going to be devastatingly quick in the opening 5 or 6 laps, and then it's going to come back towards the medium runners, I feel.
I think especially around here, the soft tyres are probably not going to last as much as what they probably expect. I reckon about maybe 8 or 9 laps at a push, potentially. So obviously quite early in a 32 lap race, so I'm sure the drivers are trying to make full use of them now when they can, and when they're engaging in these first battles with the drivers around them. It looks like Koulias has managed to create a little bit of a gap between himself and Sophie just behind, and it looks like Kirk as well doing a pretty good job, and somewhere unfortunately Charlie dropping back behind Sitterly.
And also in news, Koulias with damage. Oh,
Koulias with damage. Maybe potentially getting caught up with Sophie in the previous lap that we didn't quite see. But obviously that will hamper his top end speed a little bit.
Yeah, is that, or he's had an argument with a wall somewhere and lost. But that is unfortunate for Charlie, but he doesn't have any damage at least, Sarah. So he might have had a little moment going over the chicane at the top of the hill, and then is gone backwards a little bit. And we do have a surprise Mclaren pitter in myself, coming in from P13, getting rid of some damage. That first lap incident up to turn 2 did unfortunately cause a little bit of aero damage, so pitting to get rid of it. But in P2,
still wondering how you ended up backwards into there, but I think that's I'll keep wondering about that. But yeah, unfortunately for you, coming in having to repair that damage. But I think obviously you'll be a lot faster for repairing it. I think that's the high risk versus high reward that you get here. Obviously, when incidents like that happen, is do you stay out, do you try and deal with the damage, or do you repair it as soon as you can? But obviously, you never know. You might accidentally hit a wall again or get in a tussle with another driver. So I think it's very hard to call when the right time is to repair damage around here.
Yeah, quite right. If anything, if you're on a soft tyre, it's a lot easier to know when to repair the damage. As soon as your tyres wear out, you come back and repair your damage. Whereas if you're at the start of a stint on the medium tyres, heavier fuel, then Sophie really going sideways through the downhill section. But yeah, if you're at the start of a medium stint with damage, then it's not particularly... There's not particularly a good window in which to get rid of the damage. You either ruin your strategy or stick it out, as we saw in the blue lobby, particularly with Gary and Ziggy. Please check out that video. Great racing from those pair. Driving with damage for a majority of the race, I have to be said, but making it work, and Ziggy himself coming away with a podium there. But not to give you too many spoilers, but please check that one out. It was a good race. But you have to say...
Yeah, like I say, it can be done.
Yeah, can be. You have to say out front, Dark Lord looks like he's getting away now, and Kudos to Sophie still fighting.
Yeah, and it's quite an interesting battle for that P9. Obviously, Charlie was in front of Katie Lakai the previous lap, but Katie Lakai managing to get past Charlie, but Charlie then getting past Katie Lakai before the chicane, and the two going side by side here, and Katie Lakai in the GTR just getting ahead. But it was interesting to see them two fighting side by side coming out of the downhill section. And I think obviously Charlie, after maybe a little bit of a tussle, like you say, is able to still be within the pack and still in with a definite chance of a very good result around here. But it looks like Sophie still on the back of Koulios. Like you say, obviously Koulios carrying some damage. Potentially, this will bring Sophie into a little bit of a window where she may be able to overtake with a little bit more top-end speed. But apart from that, it looks like everyone is just kind of following each other around at the moment, because it's just so difficult to overtake, especially in this section here, Midnight. Yeah,
you either need a really big tyre offset or, well, frankly, someone with damage, but Kudos looks like he's managing it quite well. The NSX looking quite hooked up around the twisty parts of the track, and he managed to make enough of a gap to stay ahead of Sophie by the time he gets to the long back straight. But whilst we were talking about Charlie a moment ago, I do want to really bring home, as he unfortunately has an incident. That was bad timing. He's cutting across the gravel and then ending up with some left front damage, but again, he's on soft tyres, so it won't be long till he pits. But I was about to say, he's done very well in the last few races, particularly at the high speed ring, picking up a sprint race victory in a car that he doesn't even like that much. So I bet he's looking forward to season 5 and getting this Bathurst race over and done with.
Yeah, I think, obviously, unfortunately, I think he's found out that Ford GT doesn't quite cater to his driving style. So, like I say, I'm sure I'll be ready for Season 5 and to choose a different car, potentially. Or, you never know, he might surprise us and go for the same. But Ford getting a better exit out of that chicane at the end and gets past Sophie. So, Sophie currently drops off of the podium positions. But again, Koulios very impressive driving with that damage, being able to hold P2 currently, but will Fodder be able to put him at obviously a little bit more in a difficult position, maybe choosing Koulios to pit early, repair that damage, and then try and fight towards the end. But obviously, like I said earlier, it can be done. We did see the blue lobby drivers carry quite a lot of damage, and potentially, I think it's very track specific, because you wouldn't see a lot of drivers carrying that amount of damage around other tracks. But I think obviously where everyone's keeping it cautious, they don't want to crash into the walls, I think this is probably one of the tracks where you can drive with damage and still be relatively fast, because obviously there is element of people being a little bit cautious due to the walls. And all right to be cautious, because I definitely was. I was trying not to hit any walls if I could. But apart from that, Midnight coming into the pits again. Potentially a new set of rubber, maybe a full tank of fuel.
Yeah, that was another oops, I'm afraid, twice in about 3 or 4 laps on that one. But Charlie's had the same issue, come in and pitted and gotten rid of that damage. He has chosen to go basically a full tank, medium tyres, and then change his strategy rather than run with that damage. And Koulios sliding his NSX onto the back straight there. But like you said, Fodder now coming at him in that 911. But I have to say, Fodder, one of our Season 4 rookies, this season, and he's done damn well for himself with quite a few podiums and a couple of little victories here and there, let alone the pole positions that he's set. So he is not one that is going to be hanging around behind Koulias if Koulias is nursing some damage.
I was literally about to agree with you there. We all know how fast Fodder is, especially on one lap distance as well. He's able to put an astonishing lap time. It looks like Kirk will try to look for a potential gap there on Pedro, but Pedro saying no, not today, as he comes over the line still in 5th position. But yeah, Fodder obviously, like you say, probably will try and overtake Koulias when he can. Obviously, Fodder currently damage free, so that's a advantage on him. But I was just having a look at myself in P10 and Nigel in P11. I did manage to get past Nigel a few laps ago, but you know, Nigel keeping me very much on my toes and trying to get back past the BMW, but I'm trying to keep that BMW as wide as I can through here. But apart from that, it looks like Pedro obviously unfortunately, I didn't quite catch it, but Kirk has made that move on Pedro.
Yeah, and then we got Fodder thinking to make a move on Koulias or bringing Sophie with him, and we also had Sicily coming into the pits, not changing tyres, not adding fuel, just repairing damage. So another strategic, interesting moment. However, that is not going to be of particular benefit to Sicily because he's lost a lot of time, but that's what happens around here. But so far, Koulias holding P2 still. And like you said, Sarah, yourself making your way past Nigel, who is carrying a little bit of damage, but you're soon going to have potentially coach for company as well. So we know how quick he can be. So keep an eye out for him. But I have to say, at the moment, the one that's impressing me the most is Mercedes in that 911 on those hard tyres, holding off our Season 3 champion of Katie Lakai in the GTR.
Which is not an easy task whatsoever. I think that's very much props to Mercedes being able to do that. And it looks like Fodder has gone on the inside line and has got past Koulias. So the damage-free Porsche of Fodder being able to get past Koulias before the first part of the chicane. And it looks like Sophie may be chancing her arm here as well. Although Koulias dives into the pit and calls it a day with that damage. So potentially, maybe he might just repair that damage, or maybe taking on some fresh rubber and some fuel. But it looked like it was going to heat up there for a moment between Fodder, Sophie and Koulias, but Koulias bowing out of it and choosing to probably repair that damage now.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Dark Lord has also been in, and he only added tyres. No fuel, nothing, just straight tyre swap, boom, go. And he's come out in P5 with fresh rubber directly behind Pedro, who is also sporting some damage. So maybe that is why Kurt got past him in the end. But you have to say, Pedro still running a very tight race, running in P4 at the moment. Net P5, I would say, with Dark Lord, as he's going to be past him very swiftly. That is not a passing place, Dark Lord, but he's made it work, as he often does. That Supra now off on fresh soft tyres, and he'll be off down the road after the Viper.
I think Dark Lord takes any opportunity that he gets, and he saw a gap there, and he went for it. But the two look like they got very close to the wall there.
Yeah, and Dark Lord is showing that he's not used to running in dirty air. He's hit the wall twice in 2 corners, so he's got away with it. No damage on that one, but he is going to have significantly more grip and more speed than anyone around him on the track at the moment, and you can definitely tell he's eyeing up that fastest lap yet again.
Like with that slight mistake from Pedro, obviously with that damage, it has brought Mercedes and Katie Lakai into this this battle here, which spans from P1 all the way down to P7.
That it does. Fodder looks like he is certainly running low on those soft tyres. You have to say also, Dark Lord only managing 7 laps on those soft tyres. That's quite a high wear rate. No wonder he's wanting to get past these cars fast and stretch the legs of that Supra. But Fodder going for another lap. Sophie looking good on those mediums. Kirk P3, Dark Lord P4. Fresh soft tyres. He's going to be making inroads this lap, surely. Pedro and Mercedes and Kai all in sympathy, lighting up the rear tyres coming out the final corner. That was special.
That definitely was a nice little drifty moment between the three there. And I think out of the top 7, I think Pedro is unfortunately the only one carrying damage at the moment, so that might hamper his top end speed a bit. Kirk pulls out to the left, Dark Lord over to the right, and Dark Lord gets past Kirk in turn 2. It looked like Kirk did have his indicator on there, so potentially, knowing that it's not his fight, and probably a bit of a challenge to keep our Season 4 champion behind, as he looks like he's already nearly at the right on top of Sophie here. So I think Kirk choosing the wise decision there of just pulling out slightly, not obviously giving him the position, but thinking smart and not trying to get himself in a bit of a tangle.
Sounds about right, Sarah. And you have to say, Kirk and Dark Lord Louis, they've known each other for a lot of years, since around about 2019, 2020, so 5 or 6 good long years, and they know, well, what each other's capable of. And Kirk, now racing in VR as well, he'd definitely be aware that he's driving to his own race for this one with Dark Lord on fresh soft tyres and the champion, so he will, he wouldn't fight that one too hardly. But here we go, three-way battle for P1. We've got Fodder down the back straight, followed by Sophie. Fodder's tyres must be given out by now. That front right and rear right look like they are crying in pain, and they're going to have for company Dark Lord as well, so even more fun.
Oh, Dark Lord breaking so late there. I wondered if he was going to get that super stop, but he does manage to get it stopped and reclaim that P2 position. Fodder looks like he's pulled over to the left to go into the pits, and Dark Lord wants that first place back, and I think he's going to do anything to get it back off of Sophie here. But somewhere within the last lap as well, we did see Pedro lose a position to KD the Kai, and Mercedes losing a position to KD the Kai as well.
Well, it looks like Kai is on the move. Pedro's still obviously sporting that little bit of damage that does effectively put him behind any driver that is directly behind him on track, just with that time that he's going to have to spend to repair the damage. But it's still early in the race. We can probably see a lot of other drivers, as you do see Dark Lord there on the secondary screen, take P1 up into turn 2. But as I was saying, you can see a lot of drivers pick up damage around here, as we do see Mercedes has picked up damage into turn 2, is in the wall. That is unfortunate. That is fairly big damage and really counter to his strategy. He's going to have to pull out a blinding performance here if he's going to have a shot at taking P2 in the championship.
It's between yourself and Mercedes here, so it's going to be tight. Obviously, it definitely after picking up that damage, but sometimes this track, like we said before, it does bite, and unfortunately, I think it did bite Mercedes there. But I'm sure after coming off the hard tyres, changing the strategy up a little bit, he'll be back in the fight and trying to reclaim as many positions as he can. But it looks like the new battle out on track is KD the Kai and Kirk. Will Kirk let KD the Kai through like he did Dark Lord, or will he try and stick a little bit more of a challenge for KD the Kai here, as they look like they're going over the back straight here, over that little hill. Kirk still in the front. KD the Kai thought maybe potentially look for a look on the inside, and he does go into the inside brake, tries to brake later than Kirk. Catches a little bit of grass and nearly sends it sideways, which does let Kirk reclaim that position.
Yeah, good driving from those pair. Again, another pair that have been driving against each other since around about the pandemic day, so giving each other a lot of space, and, well, good driving from the pair there. Unfortunately, like you say, Kai catching a little bit of grass and then ends up back behind Kirk. He's going to have to make that move again. Won't be particularly happy with that one, but, he's still running in P4. Solid points from our Season 3 champion. He's not had the greatest of seasons so far in Season 4, despite obviously picking up a few wins here and there, and it's always great to have him on track. But he will, I think at this point, be mostly looking forward to Season 5, taking the fight to people like Dark Lord and Mercedes. Speaking of Mercedes,
Definitely
he has come in the
agree.
bits as well, so he's getting rid of that damage straight away.
Yeah, and if I was Mercedes, I'd potentially think about maybe putting a full tank of fuel in, getting some fresh rubber and sending it lick the stamp and send it all the way into his next pit stop. I think it's definitely the case for him. But Koulias is on the back of Sitterly here. Will Koulias look for a move on the inside of turn 2? He doesn't. He matches Sitterly going into turn 2. Brakes just a slightly bit later, but keeps behind Sitterly. But I'm sure Koulias will try and make a move within the next half a lap. But this could be quite an interesting battle between the two that we have here. It looks like Sitterly currently having the slightly better traction out of the corners, although I wouldn't put it past the NSX driver of Koulias to attempt maybe a risky move.
Well, Koulias' driving style, it always makes it look like the rear tyres are, would say, a little bit worn or just simply very loose, but he actually has the much better tyres at the moment, because essentially when he did pit was only for damage earlier on. It's just certain driving styles do promote certain actions, as we can no doubt see. It looks like Koulias one is one of a bit of flair, but he's at the moment harrying Sitterly constantly on the back bumper, and it looks like Sitterly with a little bit of a tail happy moment down the back straight is going to give Koulias his moment down into the chicane.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Sitterly's going to put up much of a fight as Koulias has gone into that inside line here. The two cars are relatively matched at the moment, but Koulias still hanging it in on the inside, but now Sitterly has the inside line into the chicane. Koulias will have to try his best to try and get round, and he does. A lot of respect between these two, as that's not an easy corner to pass on, but like I say, Sitterly into that P9 position now, Koulias up into P8. But yeah, potentially maybe Sitterly thinking maybe he should have put some more fuel in the tank to bring him a little bit closer to Koulias in that battle for that P8 position. But a little bit further behind, we still have Nigel in that P14 position, yourself Midnight in P13, Mercedes after pitting into now P12, and Charlie into P11, Fodder in P10, and the rest of the top 10 currently having a little bit of a battle, especially obviously the top, the 2 and 3 between Katie Dekai and Kirk. That battle still brewing between the two, and I'm sure that'll be a battle brewing right to the end.
Entirely possible, as like you say, Kirk and Kai, a bit hard to say that one, dicing for it in the downhill section. We just saw yourself there get passed by Coach up, I think, into turn 2 off the pit straight. So Coach up another position up to P6, and I've also seen Sophie is running with fairly hefty damage, so she has fallen from P2 all the way down to P5 behind Pedro now.
Just goes to show, even if you hit the wall even slightly, it could change, your whole strategic, and obviously picking up damage as well. It's a bit of a tricky one, this track, and I'm sure it's going to catch more drivers out. Obviously, when it gets dark as well, I'm sure obviously drivers will maybe not enjoy the challenge of driving this track in the dark, but definitely going to be a challenge, and I'm sure the drivers enjoying the light that they have currently. But well spotted, Sophie is now into the pits, probably to repair that damage and rethink the strategy a little bit. But it looks like maybe Kirk had a little bit of a troublesome exit into that turn 1, and it does let Kevin Dekai breeze through. Yeah,
he has had a lot of trouble because he's now sporting some rear aero and rear suspension damage, so he's definitely had a moment somewhere, and it's cost him dearly, unfortunately for him. But you do see Pedro in, and Sophie, as well as yourself, Sarah, so we have a lot of the drivers pitting at the same time off those medium compound, particularly those with damage. I think are pitting a lap or two early, but we can see drivers such as Pedro with higher tyre wear than what they might have been expecting from around here. But that said, it's a fairly simple strategy around here: a couple of mediums and a set of softs or a set of hards to the end. So hopefully for drivers like Pedro and Sophie, this is the 1 or 2 stops out the way and done, as Sophie is just finishing with her damaged car, is now back out, fresh set of tyres, full fuel, and off again, same as Pedro, who's going to be looking to make an assault on those top 5 or 6. And Sitterly looks like he's had a moment somewhere, because he's come out very slow from turn 4, and Fodder's gone straight breezing past him in a way that looks a little bit unnatural to me.
And as you can see, obviously, when you're comparing the two tyre wear, obviously Citily pitting a little bit earlier on, and like you say, not picking up any fuel but picking up tyres, they do look like they have seen better days. So maybe finding a little bit of lack of grip going through a corner, but obviously very lucky not to pick up any damage was Citily. But yeah, I'm sure Fodder taking another position, looking quite good on tyre wear is Fodder, so he's in a good position. Oh, Katie the Kai, he's I don't know how to call that. He kind of skipped along the grass and the sand. Obviously, I think his initial intention was to come into the pits to refuel and take on some tyres, but unfortunately the GTR just did not want to slow down in time for him, and he skipped over the grass back onto the racing line, and unfortunately the GTR getting sent into a little bit of a half spin. Very unfortunate for Katie the Kai, as he looked like he did put quite a lot of space out on track between himself and Kirk, so that will affect his strategy just a little bit, and obviously hopefully he has enough fuel to make it round a lap.
One would hope. As Pedro would have said in his track guide, the pit entry around here is dangerous. It's very tricky. It's got a mini chicane of its own, and it can easily catch her out. And it does look like it's caught Kai out on this eventuality. He looks like he is going to be a little bit wondering about his fuel saving round the course, because about 14-15 laps is the maximum amount most drivers will get out of a tank around here. So you will see Dartlord again this lap, as well as Kirk. But Kai, that is not what he's going to be planning. So unlucky for him, but in another way, also very lucky he didn't actually collide with anything, Sarah.
And I'm sure Kirk, as he came round that final corner, was probably grinning and bearing, because he thought maybe Katie the Kai would have come out onto the middle of the track and potentially, obviously, a near collision, a side-on collision for the two drivers there. But like I say, unfortunately, because of that, Kirk does obviously breeze back through, but no harm between the two, and I'm sure, hopefully, it looks like Katie the Kai has got enough fuel just about to get him back into the pits. Obviously attempt to come into the pits. I'm sure obviously he'll take it a lot slower, but not what you want ideally when you're racing on. We did see it in the blue lobby as well, unfortunately, a few drivers getting caught out, because who in their right mind puts the chicane in the pit lane entry?
I've got one word.
I'm sure a lot of the drivers will be having a little bit of a moan to the circuit designer.
I've got one word: autopolis.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those features.
I've got caught out by that a few times.
Me and you both. It's one of those features that appears more often than you think it does. Because even Brands Hatch has a chicane into the pits, but that said, it's nowhere near as aggressive as, say, Autopolis or Bathurst. So it's so easy to caught out, and at least with Bathurst, it's a bit of grass, and then you're effectively back on the track. Although in Kai's instance, it was a little bit backwards. So unfortunate, but he's got away with it at the same time. And out front, we do have Koulios, who has taken the lead after the Dart Lord's pit stop, but at the moment we do have a battle brewing over 9th at the moment for Sophie and Mercedes. Now, Mercedes has come down to a softer compounder tyres, is now looking very racy. And
I was just having a look at Katie the Kai's fuel amount as he came into the pits, and it was 0. So cutting it very, very close, and it looked like he just got away without fuel saving, but obviously probably a lot closer call than what Katie the Kai initially wanted with that fuel. But yeah, I think now that he's come in, he's putting on obviously a new set of tyres, some more fuel in the tank, which was definitely needed. I'm sure he'll be able to get his head back into the game and try and finish on the podium. He has dropped back behind Kirk again. I think Kirk came into the pits as well, if I'm not mistaken, as he's dropped behind Charlie and Pedro. So obviously on the soft tyres, both on the soft tyres as well. So this could get very close between Kirk and Katie the Kai in the final stage of the races.
Yeah, it's going to get spicy, and Kirk looks like he lost a lot of time on either that entry lap or the out lap, but Kai looks like he is so much faster than him at the moment. Kai looks like he's going to go around the outside one of the slow corners. I'm not quite sure what Kirk is looking so much like he's out of sorts at the moment, because Kai should have been a good 5 or 6 seconds behind him after that spin on the previous lap. I know Kirk had to replace some parts with the damage, but for some reason Kirk's having a much slower outlap.
Yeah, maybe I didn't quite catch if he's been on the softs before this or not, but maybe initially struggling to find that happy medium with the soft tyres, because obviously you did get quite a lot more grip sometimes, not all the time, on the soft tyres, so maybe adjusting to how he's having to drive the Dodge Viper a little bit, trying to maybe contemplate if he can be a little bit more aggressive with his braking. Maybe obviously he was a bit too aggressive with his braking and it came out, but obviously both on the soft tyres I think we'll definitely see, you know, their true speed here, as they look quite racy, the two here, and it looks like Pedro not too far in front of these two here, so maybe if the Kirk and Cady the car can get back to the behind of Pedro, might cause a little bit more of some risky moves to be taken to get in front of these guys.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Coach at the meantime has had another pit stop, so he's now running in 10th. Yourself and Sitley look like you're having another battle. You two always end up together one way or another. And we do also have Sophie and Mercedes having a battle for P8 now that Coach is pitted. And now Kai, he's picked up some damage somewhere, and he's got... Oh, and then another whack into the wall. So under the rear wing of Kirk, somewhere... unseen by us.
I think it was turn 2, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was on board with him, so he might have been able to catch it in the second point of view, but yeah, it looked like maybe in the dirt ear of that Dodge Viper, he just clipped the wall at turn 2, and obviously now sporting a bit of damage. Not what you want, obviously, after the fuel mishap, but he's not too far away, and maybe potentially he'll try and you know, carry this damage, as it looks like Koulios has picked up damage somewhere again.
Yeah, battle for P1. Koulios again picking up some left front damage. It's quite typical around here, some left and right front damage rather than rear damage, so it looks like he's fallen victim to one of the barriers, but that is going to be an easy pass for that Toyota powered Supra up to turn 2, I think. And just behind, Fodder lurking in P3.
I'm sure he's enjoying the relatively clean air that he's getting. He's in a little bit of no man's land, as P4 Charlie just coming over turn 1 now, so maybe Fodder having a little bit of a breather here, obviously not too much of one, but you know, able to kind of nice move from Dark Lord there. Looked like maybe potentially he was trying to catch Koulios off guard and managed to get past just around that turn 3 or turn 2. No, turn 3? I'm not sure.
Turn 3,
I'm not counting, 4. I'm not good at maths. Turn 3 and 4 Dark Lord manages to get past Koulios again, but obviously Koulios sporting that damage that he's picked up yet again, so maybe potentially you kind of knew that the move was coming, although Dark Lord getting very sideways into this downhill section, and Koulios manages to go a bit sideways as well.
I told you like going sideways.
Yeah. Very, very sideways indeed those guys were, but it looks like Charlie, Pedro and Kirk are getting closer and closer to each other here, and this could be a battle that's brewing. We don't always get to see these battles in the middle. Normally the drivers are obviously after their strategic calls, they're usually quite spaced out, but around Bathurst they seem to be very close to each other at the moment.
Yes, quite right. It does look like, though, Charlie's a little bit out of position at the moment, because he's pitted once. I believe it was to repair some damage on tyres at the same time, so he's kind of out of sync. He might be able to go one more pit stop and then go to the end if he can go set hard or medium tyres if he has access to them. Remember, he has to use 2 different tyre compounds in the race. It goes for all drivers, as Pedro does get the move done around the outside later on the brakes on Charlie, but Charlie now going to have Kirk for company in that Viper, who is now on soft tyres against all mediums. It's going to be easy pass for Kirk there, and to be fair, I think Kirk's real battle at the moment is with Pedro, so the pair of them know each other very, very well, and both of them are going to be wanting to have one over the other driver, but at the moment they had to get, well, first they had to get past Charlie. Mission successful, resume battle.
I'm surprised Charlie didn't duck into the pits there. Obviously the fuel definitely flashing, definitely close to its limit. I'm surprised that Charlie decided to go for one more lap, but maybe thinking that he can fuel save a little bit in the slipstream of the two drivers in front. Kirk on the outside of Pedro here. Pedro trying to reclaim that inside line, but it looks like Kirk has put on the power nice and early and got round Pedro around turn 2. Again, not something you see very often.
Right, well, twice in 2 laps, effectively, right? Because Dartlaw did the same to Koulios, but with Dartlaw with a significantly better car in terms of, like, no damage, and Kirk just with a significantly grippier tyres than Pedro, making use of that outside line, getting the job done. And in the background, almost in sympathy with Charlie watching Pedro and Kirk, Charlie ended up in the barrier, sadly. But I think he'll probably be in this or next lap, probably this one, to repair that and fresh tyres as well. Maybe go to the end.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers will be thinking now about their final pit stops, seeing if they can make it to the end. We saw some interesting calls in the blue lobby with tyres towards the end of the race, so maybe some drivers here thinking about a similar strategy, but we shall see. See, we're on lap 18 of 32, so I think obviously it'll be very hard to take it to the end from here, but I'm sure if drivers will try, they will try their best, as it looks like Koulios is diving into the pits as well, which promotes Fodder back into P2.
Yep, and I will note as well, Sophie with a lot more damage and falling back behind Mercedes and Kai, and almost to coaches at the moment. So Sophie having a torrid event at Bathurst, so unlucky for her. We haven't seen if that was an incident by herself or with someone else, but at the end of the day, that is good news for Mercedes in that battle for P2 in the championship up to 7th. Despite that collision with the barrier early on, he's just making his way up through the field. Good, solid drive from him. He always does this though. He always has a drive which is a little bit uneventful, but suddenly ends up in the points paying position. So one always to watch out for Mercedes. If you want to learn how to do strategy, follow Mercedes' race.
I think obviously towards the end of the season he definitely chose to go on the hard tyres, just a little bit more compared to some other drivers, thinking about longevity into the race. Sometimes it has paid off. Today obviously I think he probably would try to go a little bit longer, but unfortunately couldn't. But let's just say I just temporarily wanted to build some sandcastles, and I did drive myself into the sand about braking a little bit later than probably what I should have, but like I said, I just wanted to build some sandcastles, obviously.
Well, when in Rome, I suppose. But it happens round here. This is a very tricky track. Even what would seem like the easier corners, if you have a lapse in concentration, you've got nothing but barrier, sand, gravel, and all grass. And lots of tyre marks up against most of those as well. As you do see Sophie leaving a few marks of paint on the barriers from corner to corner. But when you have front end damage like she does, it's very hard to get that car rotated.
Like you said earlier, obviously, I think some drivers may be able to manage driving with some damage, but when you've got damage and you're trying to obviously turn in and you're trying to race like you have been practicing it, sometimes it is a little bit harder. The car reacts a little bit differently, so I think obviously some drivers having to adapt their driving style just a little bit when they pick up that damage. But I think it's inevitable around here, unfortunately, picking up damage, because you're so kind of hemmed in with the walls. So like I say, it's a difficult one, this one, but I think all drivers should be pretty proud of themselves about how they're getting on so far. There's been no collisions that have been that bad at the moment. A few door bashing moments and a few sandcastle building moments, but looks like we're on for a little bit of a battle between Sophie and Coach in midnight. Yeah,
well, Coach is breezing past Sophie on that back straight due to that damage, but this is one that can possibly go quite a bit longer. We have to wait and see how it comes down to this basically final stint of the final race of the season 4. So this is where it's all been building to across the whole season, where the places in the championship are going to be decided. Fodder looks like he's made his final pit stop of the championship there, now down to 10th, but he's going to be looking forward as other people in front of him still have to pit. So who has to pit still? Definitely Dartlord, definitely Dartlord, Kirk, Pedro, Mercedes, Kai, probably Coach. Yeah, he's still got to pit. Sophie for certain. Kudos may have made his final stop for the season as well, if he can make those medium tyres and tank last the whole 12 laps.
I think the majority of the grid still having to pit, but obviously it's that difficult time of, do you carry on for a little bit, maybe softs to the end, or like Fodder and Koulias, do you stick on the set of mediums and just bring the car home and end the season, you know, hopefully in a good way. But yeah, I think obviously the majority of the pack having to pit, but I've got to say Kirk looks very comfortable in that P2 position at the moment.
He does, and Pedro is definitely chasing him as hard as he can make that M6 go. You can just watch the back end of that M6, and it's very, very loose at the moment around most of the corners. But it's less about the car, that is more about how hard he is pushing. And he's at that point now where those medium tyres are going to be starting to have more grip than very worn soft tyres. And for the next stint, it's going to switch around, of course. I'd imagine Kirk will go to mediums and Pedro to softs. So these two, although Kirk's ahead, you have to watch out for this final stint and see how it all filters out, Sarah.
I think obviously it may be a bit too early to call the final positions, I reckon, but it's going to get close between quite a few of the drivers here. Obviously Fodder and Koulias are not separated by too much. Obviously our two recent pit stoppers, Sitterly's in the middle, he's the filling of their sandwich, but yeah, obviously not separated by too much. So again, Fodder, if he can get a little bit closer to Koulias, that could be a battle that brews right until the end of the race. As well as Midnight, yourself, you look like you're getting very, very close to the 4GT in front of you, potentially maybe looking for an overtake.
Yes, at this point I see Charlie on track, and you just got to have fun with the guy. He's been complaining about that 4GT, so I'm here to give him a hard time as well. But it's one of those, you know, who you can race and have fun with, and this is one of those instances. For me, on this track, I couldn't find the groove here tonight, but it's one of those, when you find someone you can have a good race with, you have as good a time as you can do. But Charlie, he has made his final stop, so he'll be going to the end as well. As you see, Nigel also making his final stop of the season.
It's like in that middle stint, he looked like he went on the hard tyres, obviously trying to get as long as he could into the race. Potentially, maybe, we've got 11 laps left to go. I think obviously maybe just a little bit too long for the soft tyres, so mediums I reckon are the right tyres to go for at the moment, but we shall see what Nigel comes out of the pits with shortly. Looks like the 4GT of Charlie has been able to gap Midnight just a little bit here, but I wouldn't write yourself Midnight off just yet. But it looks like Kirk has lapped Nigel, and looks like Pedro just going around Nigel as well. But a little bit further ahead, we've got who have we got? We've got Koulias still in front of Sitterly and Fodder here. So definitely he's getting faster and faster. Is Koulias? I think obviously the damage earlier was maybe hiding his true speed around this track. It seems like he's dialed in. He's looking to try and get as high a position as possible. And I think he's in a pretty good position to do so at the moment, but it does look like Fodder is closing in on Sitterly. They're both running up from turn 1 up on that big hill into turn 2. Will Fodder stay behind? He looks like he may be edging out just a little bit to try and go into that inside line, maybe go to Sitterly to break a little bit later. But it looks like the positions are currently still Sitterly in P8 and Fodder P9. So it looks like Fodder just staying behind just for the moment, maybe biding his time.
Well, I can say from experience that every time you do go racing up against Italy, he's very good at being last on the break. So he's particularly good in the braking zones, but we have seen that Lexus be a bit loose coming out of the corner. Some drivers you pass on the way into corner, other drivers on the way out. So something maybe he can work on for the next season, but him being so good on the brakes makes him very, very difficult to pass in a traditional manner. But now at this point, by the way, Mercedes, he took a, I think, early pit stop, but he has already fulfilled the 2 tyre compound, but he is definitely going to the end now on his medium tyres right behind you, Sarah. But I suspect we're going to see that M6 in soon and for a set of soft tyres towards the end. But there you go, you can just see how much grip Mercedes has got, and straight on the back of that M6 and alongside, even before the straight has really begun, the Mercedes making the use of that 911 power there.
I will be honest, it did scare me a little bit when he tucked up right behind me. I thought potentially if I accidentally broke it, would be both sent into next week. But yeah, it looks like he's staying behind for me at the moment, but I don't think it's going to take him long to get past me. Have you seen the state of my tyres recently? And probably my fuel as well. I definitely need to come in soon. But Fodder looks like he's got ever so closer to Citily into that turn 1 section here. Looks like Citily clipping a little bit of grass on the apex, but getting a good line out of the corner. And I think this is going to be a very interesting battle between the two here. It looks like Sophie as well. It looks like Koulios has got in front of Sophie here. And this may be a battle that starts to brew again. But yeah, it looks like the closest battle out on track currently is Citily, Fodder, and myself and Mercedes here.
One thing I'm noticing in this race is it looks like the 911s are having a lot of trouble passing a lot of cars, particularly down the back straights. It looks like the gearing is not particularly suited to overtaking, but they are astonishingly quick, and like you can see there with yourself and Mercedes, out of a corner. So that rear grip really giving Mercedes the grip that he needed to make the pass, because he Fodder on fresh mediums still struggling to get past Citily.
Citily, the master of the fence as well. But yeah, I think that the one thing that the Porsche has definitely over the BMW is downforce. And I think, like you said, coming out of the corner with that downforce, Mercedes is just able to put his foot down and get past my BMW. But I think, like you say, it struggles on sometimes especially around here where the undulations of the corner. Obviously, you've got corners that go downhill, uphill. The Porsche initially going into the corner finds it difficult, but coming out is a whole different story. And you can see that by how much space he's able to get in front of me since he passed. But it looks like somewhere Sophie may potentially made a little bit of a mistake, or after I was just on board with Citily there, and he loses that position to Fodder after a tiny mistake into that chicane.
Well, the pressure finally got to him, but to be fair, he's done damn well, Citily, to hold back the likes of Fodder for as long as he's done. And Kirk has made his final pit stop of the season, and he's gone again to soft tyres. So he's got to the window that he needed to go for medium double soft. So he's going to be very racy towards the end, and that might be undercutting the likes of Pedro out in P2, who looked like he was threatening to make a move on Kirk with the pit stops the way they were going to unfold. But now Kai is back up to P3 after that instant we saw him. Yellow flag in the downhill section. That is Nigel, who has had a spin and big damage over the top chicane there. But what I was saying is that Kai recovering after that spin where he tried to go into the pit for the end of his first stint, and now I believe it's going to be a fight somewhere on track between Pedro, Kai and probably Kirk, and I'm not sure who's going to come off best here. Have to wait and see.
Been an epic race so far. I would say Coach.
And Koulios.
A little bit of a quieter race after that, and Koulios, but especially obviously after the was it the first lap that Coach had to come in and pit?
It was.
It seems so long ago now, but yeah, I mean Coach up to P4 after obviously a very difficult start to the race. I think that's an incredible job. But since then, he's just kept it nice and quiet, nice and clean. And obviously similar with Koulios as well, a very similar story of picking up some damage and paving his way through. And it looks like Fodder has just got past Sophie, and Sophie, obviously, look, I think she's still sporting a little bit of damage, so maybe affecting that top end speed of that Ferrari again, and Fodder being able to just breeze past, shall we say. But Mercedes also has got past Italy just before going into the chicane here.
Italy has also picked up some damage. Sophie got very loose coming out of that left-hander onto the back straight, which made the pass is so easy for Fodder. But Kai into the pits as well. It's all happening at the moment, and as well as Koulios and Kirk really going at it. Koulios on those fairly aged medium tyres, Kirk on the fresh softs. You think this might be an easy one for Kirk in that 8.3 Viper down to turn 2.
It looks like he's already gone into that inside line very, very early before the corner, showing Koulios his intentions, and I don't think Koulios is going to fight it too much.
Yeah, quite mature from both drivers there. Kirk being very upfront, he wanted the inside. Koulios not fighting too hard, knowing his tyres are not as fresh as Kirk, so both of the drivers being very sensible there, I feel, particularly around a track like this. But Sophie still going on those very, very aged tyres and dented Ferrari. Now with Mercedes right up behind her. These two were fighting early in the race. It shows you the pace that both Mercedes had. Unfortunately, how much time Sophie might have lost from that damage, but it's still all to play for in this last few laps of the season. Sophie, unfortunately, running a little bit wide, is going to get away with it. Will have to be early on the brakes to make the next corner, but Mercedes up to P7. Good move from him there. Italy again sporting a bit of damage now, but now Sophie round. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Oh, there's not really much you can do at that point when you're just that sideways in that corner, but that does let Kai through as well as Italy. Sophie a race to forget, but hopefully she's got enough highlights for the season to look back fondly.
Oh, I definitely think Sophie's had quite a lot of highlights this season. I always enjoy either racing her or just sharing the track with her, and I'm sure she'll have a lot of highlights. But yeah, unfortunate. It looked like obviously after that little kind of off-track excursion that she had just before Mercedes went past, maybe made the tyres a little bit dirty, and obviously struggling for grip, which obviously made her unfortunately face the wrong way. But Pedro currently in the lead. I think he's yet to pit. I think he'll be coming in shortly. But the Dark Lord in P2. I think he recently just come into the pits, took on a tiny bit of fuel and some soft tyres, but did get a 3-second penalty.
He did, unfortunately. That's the same conclusion I came to. Did see him coming in without penalty, came out with one, so that must be what happened. I have to say, he's going to be looking at that faster lap. Kai has nicked it at some point, so he's going to be looking to go sub 203.5, which is well, let's face it, that is already a qualifying time from Kai, so Dark Lord looking like he's going to be wanting to. Do you know what we haven't
noticed?
What's that?
Somewhere, Koulios has got back in front of Kirk.
He has as well. Do you know what? I don't know how to explain that, because we're not seeing any damage from Kirk or anything like that, so maybe he's just put a wheel wrong somewhere, but he hasn't ended up hitting the barrier, so that's, well, unlucky for Kirk, but also lucky that he can still fight back with Koulios. So, well, alright, Kirk versus Koulios part 2, here we go.
I think obviously, like you say, probably I'd probably come to a conclusion that maybe Kirk getting a little bit squirrely and Koulios taking the opportunity to go past again. But we've still got 6 laps left, so it's still all to play for sure. It looks like Pedro is coming into the pits now with a tiny amount of fuel. But let's see where that drops him out on, and what position Pedro can get.
Well, this is going to be a very short stop for Pedro. A splash and dash of fuel and most likely soft tyres. So Pedro, who I think finished P3 in Season 3, he has not had the greatest run of luck this season, but he has had some great races and been on the podium multiple times, so he's going to be after a good end of season finale, and he's going to be short filling, soft tyres surely. Here he goes. Where is he coming out? Ahead of Koulios and Kurt. He's made the overcut work. That is outstanding driving from Pedro.
He He put that to perfection. I think he knew that if he maybe potentially waited a lap longer, well, one, he wouldn't have any fuel, and two, potentially Kyrgios and Kirk were closing in on him. So yeah, I think Pedro making the brilliant decision there to come into the pits. And like I say, a little splash and dash. Let's see if we can keep that P2 position. But going back to Pedro, I think a very similar story between myself and him. Obviously, both testing out the BMW. Quite happy with it pre-season testing, and then GT7 being GT7, hitting us with a very early on BOP change, which did change the feel of the car a little bit. And unfortunately, I think obviously Pedro not enjoying the BMW that much, but I think he's still driving the socks off of it and doing an amazing job. So I think he'll be very, very happy if he can seal the championship with this P2 position that he's currently in.
Quite right, and he has had a lot of solid drives and been one to watch. One of those, bit like Mercedes, unspectacular in terms of like mid-race, and somehow ends up in the sharp end of the points. But that's kind of how you want to be, sort of a little bit anonymous, and then really take home the points at the end of the day. And I've just noticed Dartlord making yet another pit stop from P1, so he's had a collision with the barrier.
I think he wants to go for that fastest lap.
Of course he does. It's Dartlord. What else would he be doing?
I think, unfortunately, I think he might not be able to get a Grand Slam, because I think Katie the Kai did get the fastest lap for the sprint.
I believe so.
Not quite sure.
Yeah.
So I think he's trying to capitalise, maybe getting the fastest lap here, and being ever so close to getting that Grand Slam. But it looks like Pedro and a few drivers coming past Nigel there. It looks like the next one to do so is Kyrgios and Kirk.
Yeah, Kirk very sideways out of turn 1 as well. It's at this point, Kirk is now knowing he's got 4 laps left to get Kyrgios, and despite Kyrgios' tyres being older, the soft tyre is going to start waning on that Viper. So Kirk's got to get this move done quick. He's going to have any hope of A, getting P3, or even having a look at the back of Pedro's car. But again, we know how quick Pedro can be on a set of soft tyres, low fuel, around a track he's good at. So watch out for Pedro making an assault on the fastest lap as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think obviously Pedro definitely will be able to do. Sorry, my attention was at Mercedes and Kai there. They tried to go side by side through turn 2, and they were very close to doing so. But I think Katie the Kai just backing up ever so slightly, not wanting to pick up any more damage or cost their a potential P6 finish on the cards here. Two have been quite close to each other in the last couple of laps. I think Mercedes trying to make that Porsche as wide as he can, but obviously I think it's going to be a difficult drive.
Sorry, both Kirk and Kyrgios, you can see how hard they are pushing as well. Line up the rear tyres, so you've got a good couple of battles to Kirk and Kyrgios, as well as Kai and Mercedes, both pushing each other very, very hard, with fodder in between them, the metaphorical sandwich between both the battles there.
And sorry to completely unrelated, but I've just got to bring your attention to that Ford GT. How cool does it look with those backlights?
I was thinking it earlier. Yeah, I
think especially with the Valentini Rossi kind of style livery that Charlie is running, it looks pretty cool.
I am always pleased to see that car in the championship. We had, I think, Ripon de Terren run it last season, and it looked beautiful in purple. And Charlie's livery also looks stunning, particularly under the lights. Just something you always know. Oh, fodder! Sorry, to go completely off piece. Fodder, just I think lighting up the rear tyres coming out of turn 1, dropping a pair of positions, dropping to 7, picking up damage as well. So that's given Kai and Mercedes exactly what they need. And by my maths, that does make Mercedes eligible to take P2 in the championship as well. So great news from Mercedes. He's going to have to try and keep Kai behind him as well.
Yeah, and I think that's proven probably quite difficult, especially in this closing stage of the race. Obviously both drivers, tyres are starting to wear, the fuel is starting to come down, so it's going to get tight between Katie the Kai and Mercedes here. But yeah, unfortunate, very, very unfortunate for Fodder. He was having a pretty good race, but it just goes to show how easily, if you accidentally light up the rear tyres or you dip a little bit of tyres into the grass, especially in turn one, it can prove a little bit of a different story. But looks like Darklord. I think the pace of Darklord today has been astronomical. He's been able to pit, what, 3 or 4 times and still be in the lead?
Yeah, 3 times, but he's just had the track to himself out front, and he can just do his own pace. And a couple of the other drivers behind have obviously taken on damage and longer pit stops. But that raw pace of Darklord has been fantastic. I can also report back and say Kirk looks like he is starting to suffer with that tyre wear, but obviously keep an eye on the space. It's never over until the final lap. We still have 2 or 3 laps left, but it does also look like Kai is starting to struggle. You can see how hard he's pushing, cutting across the grass in the final sector there. He really wants that P5 off Mercedes, and you can see how hard Mercedes is driving as well. That 911, which is immense amounts of rear grip, you can see him pushing and sliding it. So both drivers giving it their all on these final 3 laps of the Nighthawk Racing Championship as Kai goes round out of turn 1, and we have lost him. So that is unfortunate. Kai calling it a day, and that's the end of his season. So that is a dropout for him, and it gives Mercedes everything he wants in this race. Just a nice easy drive to the flag and P2 in the championship.
Very unfortunate for Caden the Kai there. I mean, the GTR, it can be, it can bite, and unfortunately, I think obviously, like I say, going to the Kai calling it a day. But yeah, I mean, Mercedes gets a little bit of breathing room here, but Kirk with a half-second penalty there. That's going to prove a little bit difficult. Behind Kyrgios, obviously he'll drop back quite a bit, but will he be able to make that time up in 2 laps? Also
damage, so he's had an incident with a wall, probably around the outside of turn 3 into turn 4, which you can pick up damage and a time penalty, just rub salt into the wound. Kirk is going to be happy that he's performed very well in this race, but ruining whatever happened to drop him back behind Kyrgios. Because one thing I can definitely say about the young Brit, Kyrgios, is he makes a lot less mistakes than he did in earlier seasons, and he's proven it here tonight. And he's ahead of Kirk, another seasoned veteran on Gran Turismo. So both drivers giving it their all. It looks like Kyrgios is going to be coming away possibly with a podium in the final race here at Bathurst. And just at that moment, just caught Darklord setting a fastest lap, so he has taken what will probably be a guaranteed extra 2 points there.
Yeah, I think even though he didn't need the points, he still wanted to go for the points. I mean, it just goes to show you what a champion that Darklord is. You know, he confirmed that he was champion last week, and he's still out here pushing and trying to maximise the amount of points. So I think a true champion drive from Darklord tonight.
And I will say, whilst we are mentioning...
Kirk is going for a move on Kyrgios.
Yeah, I did see they were getting close. And Kirk, yeah, he's shot, but Kyrgios hasn't got enough fuel. Kyrgios is fuel saving. That's
twisting the tail that I didn't expect.
Yeah, Kyrgios has had to let him go, which now that puts Mercedes in the zone to catch him as well. I think Kyrgios is either going to have to pit. He must be on 5% of fuel, and it's about 7 to 8% of fuel a lap around here. He's going to have to either coast round or pit at the end of this lap. That is something we hadn't spotted, and that is a gift horse giving Kirk back P3. But now Kirk, with the damage, has got Mercedes for company as well. So developments right up until the final lap here in the F1 RC Championship.
Drivers do like to keep us guessing, don't they?
Certainly do. But I will finish the point I was going to say. Darklord, like you said, taking the extra points, pushing all the way to the end of the championship. And I have to say, if you haven't seen it as well, please check out the high-speed ring race for the lead, which will be a core memory of mine. I'm not going to give any spoilers on this one, but Darklord playing a 160-mile-an-hour game of chess with myself, and yeah, go and check that one out, as you do see Mercedes get past Kyrgios down the back straight.
I think Koulias, like you say, maybe coasting round. Will he come into the pits? I mean, he's got to, right? He's probably not going to make it round the final lap if he doesn't. That is very, very close to running out of fuel.
That's got to be fuel. No, he's coming in. Honestly, I would have 100% gone fuel mode 6 and coasted to the end, but he has decided...
Chanced it, yeah.
3%, you could stretch that out, surely. But, that is so unfortunate for him. That's going to drop him down from P3 all the way down to P6 or 7. So, unlucky there from Koulias. But out front, Dartlord has started, and halfway round almost his final lap of the season, a victory lap. Pedro looking immense in P2, making that M6 work for him. Kirk somewhat luckily running P3, but he's going to have Mercedes breathing down his neck and much, much fresher, although medium tyres, undamaged 911. So we're going to keep an eye on that one if you want to stay with that one, Sarah, because that is going to be one we're going to have to watch. In the other one, we've got Koulias and Coach fighting for P6.
And I had myself a little bit of a battle with Sophie, the two girls of the grid, fighting it out into that final chicane, and Sophie just went into the inside line, broke a little bit later. Unfortunately, couldn't get the Ferrari stopped, so I went out on track a little bit, and I managed to keep that position. But a very close battle between myself and Sophie. But like I say, close battles across the grid going on to the final lap.
Yeah, this is a lot going on in this final lap, as we do see Dartlord is going to be coming around the penultimate corner shortly. Now this is the battle for me, Kirk and Mercedes, as well as Coach and Koulias, but I do think Coach has got that one theoretically sewn up, but we have to go back to Dartlord as he comes across the line to take the final race victory, the final feature of the season, P1 and Championship for Dartlord. Pedro, a couple of corners behind, a couple of seconds, takes P2 with a very worn set of soft tyres to be happy to finish. But congratulations to him on another podium this season. But in the final two corners, we do have Kirk and Mercedes. Looks like Kirk is just about going to hold on, despite the damage, despite the near flat front right tyre.
P3 temporarily.
Yeah.
He did lose that P3 temporarily before the chicane, but he managed to break a little bit later. What a race between these two, especially in that final lap.
Yeah, Mercedes pushing right to the end, we can confirm, does steal P2 in the championship by 3 points. So
what I've not noticed is the brake boards across the start-finish line. Did Dartlord maybe do some celebrations there?
No, that was Mercedes trying to get past Kirk on the final bit. But Fodder taking P5, Coach taking P6 ahead of Koulias, who didn't take on new tyres, but he didn't really have the time to make up that final lap. And then we have Charlie pulling a handbrake turn round the final corner, taking P8. Sicily in a close battle with yourself, Sarah, taking P9. Sarah, your debut in Red Lobby for Season 4. Solid P10, followed by Sophie in P11. Well, what can we say? That was action all the way to the end, Sarah, wasn't it?
Was. And I think what a race from everybody. We've got Midnight yourself as well, obviously in P12, coming around the final chicane here at the moment. Nigel's already finished in P13, and obviously unfortunately we did lose KJ the Kai a little bit earlier on, but where are you going, Midnight? Where are you going? I think that might be the wrong exit, but I mean you are the only one out on the grid at the moment.
Well, just like what happened at Dragon Trail Gardens, I was the last person on the lead lap that particular race. So I did donuts then. I'm doing them again.
I mean, that's one way to finish season 4.
You got to have a little bit of fun, pull some donuts for the crowd, and I'm actually pulling successful donuts compared to last time. So it was a good season, and coming across the line, I knew I was taking P3 in the championship, so celebrating that. Kudos to particularly Mercedes nicking it at the end and taking P2, and Dartlord taking obviously the championship in the previous round. But what can we say? That was it's one of those races, Bathurst, which to me is always looking at it. I was like, oh, is that going to give us a good race? That was action all the way to the end for multiple different reasons, be it fuel, tyres, damage, speed. What can we say? There was so much going on, and then there's Dark Lord out front just trying to pump in some fast laps for fun. But what can we say? So that was a pretty interesting race all in all, and one I will remember for quite a while. Not for the positive from my point of view, but for everyone else's, for the action provided. That's been a pretty outstanding and great race. Once we got past the initial red flag and got going, it all calmed down nicely and gave us some good action, I feel.
Couldn't have put it better myself. I completely and 100% agree with you. I think obviously I did feel for Kyrgios just that a little bit on the penultimate lap, running out of fuel. Not what you want, but maybe a slight miscalculation somewhere in his strategic department. But yeah, very unfortunate. But I mean, we had battles the whole race. Normally, like I said earlier, we have that period in the middle of the race where everyone is on different strategies. They kind of space out on the grid. But no, we didn't have that today. We had kind of action right from the word go until the checker flag was waved. So I think it was an awesome race, and I think it was probably the best way to see off season 4. And what an incredible season and race it's been.
Yeah, very simply put, it has been outstanding across season 4, which we will do a deep dive in a dedicated video, which will be coming after this video. But just speaking about Red Lobby, in this instance, it has been a privilege to drive with everyone who's appeared in the Red Lobby. It is obviously the harder lobby to be in, with no traction control aids, no anti-spin, but it has provided us with a lot of action through this season and has definitely given us a lot of memorable moments and worthy of, you know, looking at a highlights reel just dedicated on some of the highlights from that alone. But please check out the Blue Lobby as well, not short on action and always worth a watch, and some of the best races of the season, also Blue Lobby. But Sarah,
I think
go for it.
Obviously both lobbies have had some phenomenal racing, so I'm gonna say it again, I think you should check out both lobbies as well. It's nothing short of amazing racing across both of them, so definitely worth checking out both. And obviously you can see the development of some drivers, you know, starting off in the blue, working their way up, and yeah, I think it's good racing. I've enjoyed thoroughly racing both in the blue and the red lobby as well. But I think here comes the difficult decision, Midnight, of who we're going to pick for driver of the day. I can't think of one right now, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, that is the question, Sarah. I mean, who can you possibly give it to? At the end of the day, my instant thought was genuinely Pedro for a strategic masterclass in that last half of the Bathurst race there, and just taking B2. He looked like he was on for a P6 where he was running with damage earlier on, and basically just sort of disappeared, and yeah, really made the track his own for a while. But can we give it to anyone other in reality than Darlord, who has just been supreme here today? Other than that, I do think we have to give some shout outs to drivers like Kudos with the unfortunate last couple of laps, but yeah, to me, I think it goes to Dark Lord, and I think quite rightly, given he's taken the championships as well. How do you feel about that?
Obviously Dark Lord for one. I think, I'm not quite sure. I think there definitely is a few honourable shout outs, like Pedro, like Kirk as well,
and Mercedes. Now I think about it as well, for the
Mercedes, yeah. Coach as well.
Yep.
Coach obviously having a very difficult start to the feature, but had a really good sprint. The drivers do make our job a little bit harder to call driver of the day, but I'm going to go Dark Lord for one, and I'm deciding who can share it with him.
Genuinely, this is my joint vote of Dark Lord and Mercedes, both taking P1, P2 in the championship respectively. And Mercedes, despite having a big crash midway through the race, came back through it, fought off Kai, our Season 3 champion, and was fighting towards the podium right at the end, right on the back of Kirk. So to me, it's those two.
I would back that. I agree with you because it's too hard to pick. I could probably give it to loads of people. But so yeah, I'm going to agree with you there.
I'm going to take the award for the best donor of the event, at least.
Yeah, you can have that.
I can have that one. Thank you very much. And you can have the best sandcastle.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I will say we will be revisiting this in a dedicated video where we discuss what happened throughout the season, play some highlights, and have a look at what happened in the team battles as well as the rookie battles. But with that in mind, Sarah, I think we have to draw this one to a close. But I'm going to very, very quickly ask you, what has been your red lobby moment of the season, if you can think of one in particular? I'll give you a moment to think, and I'm going to give you mine straight off the bat. And I've mentioned it already, it's that high speed ring fight between myself and Dark Lord. Please check out that video. It's one of my favourite moments of the entire Nighthawk Racing F1 RST series combined. And other than that, not featuring myself, I'm going to have to say, probably one of the events from Deep Forest, because we had a lot of great action there, particularly in the reverse. And again, we saw some great drives, some drivers like Fodder and Mercedes, as well as Dark Lord. But what can we say? There's been a lot of good action throughout the season. Do you have a particular red lobby highlight?
That is a difficult question. I would back actually yourself and Dark Lord's battle at High Speed Ring. I'm trying to think currently on my feet. Trying to think of some other moments. I know there has been some. Been some memorable moments across the red lobby this season. Ones that are coming to mind at the moment would probably be Fodder's feature race win around Trial Mountain. I think he's only had a couple of previous events before that, and to pull out a feature race win, especially in the red lobby, it's not an easy task. And from what I remember, it was quite a unique podium as well, with Mercedes and McManley sharing the podium with Fodder. So that's a standout moment for me. I think obviously apart from that, thinking about back to Suzuka, obviously driving in the wet and the dark
that was special.
That was definitely special. And I think obviously some of the drivers having a pretty good race, but obviously very difficult races. But yeah, I think there's too many moments to call really. But those are the ones that stand out for me. And obviously Charlie's a sprint win around Road Atlanta as well.
Yeah, that battle with Pedro.
And yeah, that was definitely very close between the two. But also obviously the sprint win for Charlie around High Speed Ring. But I think, like I say, way too many moments to call, and I think they'll definitely make for some good highlights.
Quite right, and we will address more of that in a dedicated video coming shortly. But with that in mind, Sarah, I think we need to put to bed Season 4. Red Lobby and Blue Lobby are now finished, so, well, we can have a rest for a little while. But we'll be back with some non-championship events, so featuring races like with the Red Bull Junior car and some others. Keep an eye out for them on our Discord. If you're interested in coming and joining us, please check out the link in the description. It will take you to our link tree and our Discord, and then various other things like our YouTube, obviously from where you're now looking at this, as well as our Instagram and TikTok, amongst other things. With that in mind, Sarah, I think we call that a night, and say thank you to all of the drivers throughout the season, and we look forward to Season 5, as well as our Endurance series, which is lovingly named FEC, which stands for F1 RST Endurance Championship, or FEC. So, something to look forward to. But I have to say,
lots to look forward to.
I have to say thank you to you, Sarah, as well for tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you too. And like I said, a lot to look forward to, both on and off track. So I'm looking forward to giving season 4 a little bit of a deep dive, and looking to get season 5 ready to roll. I think, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. What you just said, and let's bring on season 5, bring on the non-championship events, and bring on Feck.
Exactly that. And with that in mind, let's go and have a chat to any of the drivers who've put in a podium rim statement and bring the season to a close. But thank you again, Sarah. Thank you to all of the drivers out there. Thank you to all the viewers. If you like what you've seen, please leave a subscribe on YouTube and a thumbs up. With that in mind, thank you all. We've enjoyed this. I think we've enjoyed this, Sarah. Let's move on. Let's call that a night.
Right.
Thank you very much. See you all again soon.
Now, the final round of the season at Bathurst, it was a pretty good round. I think it was a good way for me to end the season, even if some things didn't really go my way. But then again, sometimes not all can go your way, and I've experienced that throughout the season. But yeah, limiting myself to analyzing what happened in this round. Qualifying was quite nice, being in P4, knowing that the drivers in front of me were all on softs. It was, yeah, pretty good lap. I think I could have improved maybe slightly more in a few areas, as I wasn't feeling too comfortable for some reason. But nonetheless, it was a good qualifying session for me. Then the sprint, once again being involved in a few unfortunate, situations, battles that I really shouldn't have, and then circumstances don't really go your way most of the time, but still managed to salvage a decent result in the end. Had a good battle with Kulios until the line. It was pretty interesting. Then the feature, getting a podium P2, was realistically the best I could have hoped for, because I knew that my pace was nowhere near as good as Dark Lord and maybe a few other drivers, but just try to keep it clean, not drive at 100% the sort of pace I know I can do. Did make a mistake at the beginning, which could have been quite costly, but I managed to hold on and take the pain for that stint, but then compensate with better stints after that. Yeah, just keeping it quite comfortable pace, obviously not being too slow, but somewhat comfortable, so that I knew that I wouldn't necessarily pick up any damage or unnecessary penalties. For the season as a whole, I had a lot of highs, a lot of lows. It was a pretty inconsistent season. Can't necessarily say that I'm displeased with the final result in the standings, but yeah, do know that I need to improve a lot of things coming into the next season. Yeah, looking forward to season 5 already. I hope everyone enjoyed this season as much as we did. I'd like to give a quick mention to all of our new drivers this season, all of our rookies who have done a fantastic job, and it was really good to see them improve throughout the season. And also to our returning drivers. It's fantastic to have you all this season, and hopefully all of you can stick around for season 5 and any other seasons to come. But yeah, maybe things might go my way a bit more next season. Had quite a few unlucky races, I'd say. Made a lot of mistakes on my behalf. I also had really good results, really good performances. So hopefully I can keep more, just be able to keep them going at a more consistent basis. And, yeah. Also, just before I end, a quick shout out to all the admin team. and Sarah Midnight in particular as the owners has been fantastic to be a part of another season as an admin for this league. I do feel really grateful for the fact that they have put a lot of trust in me so that I can have this position within the team, and hopefully I can keep contributing towards having good ideas for the league and be able to run it smoothly, and have all of our drivers who are the core of the leagues and why we do this happy and motivated to keep staying with us. So yeah, goodbye for now, and see you next season.
Qualifying was amazing, taking first pole of the season with an unexpectedly fast lap. Sprint race was lots of close battling and with some good overtakes and others making mistakes and penalties. I managed to get myself into the lead and keep good pace for the win. Feature race started well, had to defend into T1, then managed to use the pace of the soft tyres to gain a good gap before pitting. I then made no mistakes until the final stint when hit the wall chasing fastest laps, so had to make an extra stop to snatch it before the end and take a good win. Overall the season has been immense fun with some great close racing with multiple drivers. To take 6 feature race wins was incredible, and I feel my consistency played a massive part in being able to take the overall championship win, which I am obviously delighted with. Bring on season 5, hoping for more of the same.
Wow, what can I say about today's the result from the final round of the season? P3 in the feature race. Honestly, I couldn't believe it, and I think, in all honesty, I owe P3 probably to Pedro for thankfully letting me pass and not really fighting an overtake I made on him when I started my my first stint on the soft tyres when he was on the mediums. I think that's probably what gave me the clear track I needed to really focus on focus on my performance to be able to really maximize the soft tires to be able to come out in front of the other drivers. Honestly, I really thought a podium was off the cards. I did overtake Koulias, who was running in P3. But yeah, I really thought it was off the cards after I overtook him and then made a mistake and let him back past, and then I just couldn't catch him. So I really thought it was unachievable. But luckily for me, and unfortunately for Koulias, he ran out of fuel and had to stop for extra fuel. Otherwise than that, I think with a few laps to go, I knobbed it into the wall and picked up a bit of damage. Oh, I hope I'm allowed to say that. And picked up a bit of damage, so I was definitely feeling pressure from Mercedes on the final lap especially. Luckily enough, I managed to hold the racing line going into the chase, and managed to take the apex, which gave me the track position to hold off to the end. But I think one more lap and Mercedes probably would have got me. But yeah, fantastic race. Qualifying where I did, I definitely wasn't expecting to get a podium, but I managed to keep it clean for the most part and really maximise the result for the car. Obviously, fortunately, this is a track that you can't really overtake on unless you're doing it down the back straight. And luckily enough for the Viper, it's such good acceleration and top speed that even in the slipstream, the other cars can't really catch me if I didn't have any damage. But yeah, fantastic result. I couldn't believe it. After taking on VR or virtual reality headset for the first time out at high speed ring, and obviously that race I wasn't really anywhere particularly high. To say I raced VR and finished on the podium at Bathurst of all places, sum it up, I can't believe it. what else is there to talk about? A sprint race as well. Not great. I think. Not. I think I know it wasn't a great sprint race for me, which I think probably cost me P10 in the top 10 in the championship. The sprint race just went wrong. I think I was running quite well until I got an accidental tap from Mercedes. But no harm, no foul. He waited up for me, so that was all fine. Then I accidentally outbroke myself and took midnight out, which wasn't great. Again, I got to apologise for midnight for that one. So I think I finished P10 in the sprint race, which isn't fantastic, but I made up for it in the feature race, which, well, in all, I take a podium. I take a red lobby podium, especially in VR when I'm still really getting to grips with it. And it's probably the best way I could have ended off the season. I'm up and ready for next season, and I can't wait for it to start. And you better look out for me in the FEC series, because I'll be trying to gun for some podiums there as well. One more thing. I just wanted to say thank you for all the admin team and all that for running the season, running the league so well and efficiently. I want to thank them for having me in the commentary booth, and then putting up with all my stick and attitude issues I can have at times when I'm in party chat with them. Thanks to everyone, and I hope everyone, for the most part, I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it this season. And again, I hope we hope to see everyone back for next season.